For Alton, the guilt was a constant companion. His parents, Gerald and Nora, had vanished a month ago, and the case had already gone cold, leaving only a single sad clue: their travel map, found snagged on a fence. The police saw a tragic story of tourists lost in the desert, but Alton, a military cryptographer, saw something else. Looking at the photo of the map for the 100th time, he realized the highlighted route made no logistical sense. It wasn't a path. It was a message, a desperate cipher left by a father he barely knew. What that secret message revealed would uncover a darkness hidden in the heart of the Mojave, a truth far more terrifying than anyone had imagined. Let me know in the comments what you would do if you found a clue that everyone else had missed. The silence in Alton's small, sparse apartment was his enemy. It gave the guilt room to grow, to whisper reminders of all the calls he'd missed, the visits he'd postponed. His work was his life, a world of encrypted signals and classified data that he couldn't share with anyone, least of all his parents. They just knew their son was busy, distant. They didn't understand that his job, which had created the gulf between them, had also given him the very skills he now desperately needed. On his laptop screen was the San Bernardino County Sheriff's case file on the disappearance of Gerald and Nora Vance. The official summary was brief and bleak. An elderly couple from out of state, last seen refueling their car in a small desert town, presumed to have taken a wrong turn and succumbed to the elements. Their car was still missing. The only piece of evidence was the map, found by a rancher checking his fence line. To the police, the bright pink highlighter marking a meandering path through the desert was a tragic road map to their final days. But to Alton, it was an anomaly. He printed the map on a large plotter at his office, spreading the life-size replica across his dining table. For hours, he just stared at it. The route started logically enough, heading out of the town of Barstow. But then it took a sharp turn onto a road that, according to his satellite imagery, devolved into an impassable dirt track. It looped around a barren mountain range before heading toward a dry lake bed, then inexplicably doubled back on itself for nearly 10 miles, before stopping abruptly in the middle of nowhere. No one trying to get anywhere would take this route. It was nonsensical. His father, Gerald, was a meticulous planner. A retired Air Force intelligence officer, he was a man who color-coded his files and planned road trips with military precision. He would never have made such a series of navigational errors. It was impossible. Alton traced the pink line with his finger, a cold realization washing over him. This wasn't a mistake. This was a message, composed by a man who knew his time was running out. His father knew Alton would be the one to see this file. He had to be. This convoluted path wasn't a map of a place. It was a map of a key. The turns, the mile markers, the roads they crossed. It was all data. He spent 2 days without sleep, fueled by black coffee and a burning need for answers. He cross-referenced the turns with alphanumeric substitution ciphers. He treated the mileages between turns as coordinates. Nothing worked. It was too simple or too complex. Frustrated, he pushed away from the table and walked to his bookshelf. His eyes scanned the titles, mostly technical manuals and history books, and then he saw it. A thin, worn-out book of poetry his father had given him when he graduated from college. Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. He'd never understood why his father, a man of logic and numbers, loved poetry so much. He pulled the book from the shelf. Tucked inside was an old photo of him and his dad, standing by a lake. On the back, in his father's neat cursive, was a line from one of the poems, "Keep your face always toward the sunshine." It was an old inside joke between them. Whenever Alton was facing a difficult problem, his father would say that. It was his way of saying, "Look for the positive." But in cryptography, sunshine could also mean a key hidden in plain sight. He returned to the map, his heart pounding. The route crossed several numbered state highways. He started writing them down. Route 66, Highway 247, Route 18. Then he opened the book of poems. He went to the 66th page, the 247th page, the 18th page. On each page, he took the first letter of the first word. The process was slow, painstaking. Some of the page numbers didn't exist, forcing him to use mathematical variations, adding the digits, for instance. After 6 hours, he had a string of letters. He rearranged them, ran them through anagram solvers, and finally, a phrase emerged. It wasn't a location. It was a warning. Guide, Rex, friendly liar. Alton stared at the words. The police report mentioned his parents had asked for directions at the gas station. Someone must have pointed them toward a local guide, a man named Rex. He booked a flight to California that same day, telling his commanding officer he was taking personal leave. The search was no longer in the hands of the police. It was his. He arrived in Barstow, a town defined by the endless desert that surrounded it. It felt like a different planet from the secured, climate-controlled buildings he was used to. He rented a simple sedan and checked into a small motel. The first thing he did was go to the gas station where his parents were last seen. The security camera footage was grainy and had already been reviewed by detectives, but Alton wanted to see it for himself. He watched the familiar sight of his father filling the tank while his mother went inside to buy snacks. They looked happy, relaxed. Then, a man approached them. He was tall, lean, with a weathered face and a wide, easy smile. He wore a dusty cowboy hat and a vest with a local tour company's logo embroidered on it. Mojave Rex Adventure Tours. He watched as the man, Rex, spread a map on the hood of their car, the same map now in an evidence locker. He saw his father nodding, smiling, shaking the man's hand. He saw his parents get back in their car and drive away, following the directions of a man his father's final message had called a liar. Finding Rex wasn't difficult. His tour company was the most popular one in town. His face was on billboards along the highway promising the real desert experience. Alton found him at his small office, a rustic-looking shack with a porch. The man who greeted him was the same one from the video, his smile just as bright and welcoming. "Can I help you, friend?" Rex asked, his voice a low, friendly drawl. Alton introduced himself, explaining that his parents were Gerald and Nora Vance. Rex's smile fell, replaced by a look of profound, practiced sadness. "Oh, man, I am so sorry for your loss," he said, shaking his head. "I heard about that. A real tragedy." He invited Alton inside, offering him a cold bottle of water. "I remember your folks," Rex continued, leaning against a counter cluttered with maps and brochures. "Sweet couple. They were asking about a scenic route, something off the beaten path. I showed them my favorite loop, a beautiful drive. I can't believe. To think I was the last person to see them." The performance was perfect. Rex's eyes were full of sympathy, his tone gentle. He answered all of Alton's questions without hesitation. He explained the route he'd given them, claiming it was a hidden gem known only to locals. But Alton noticed something. When Rex described the route, he described a logical, scenic loop. He did not describe the nonsensical path highlighted on the map. It was a small discrepancy, but it was enough. Rex was either lying, or his father had ignored the advice and drawn his own path for some unknown reason. But Alton knew his father. He followed plans. He decided to play along, to act like the grieving son, lost and looking for closure. He asked Rex if he could hire him for a tour the next day, to see the route his parents were supposed to have taken. "I just want to see what they saw," Alton said, his voice thick with fake emotion. "Maybe it will help me understand." Rex's eyes lit up. "Of course, son. I'd be honored. We'll go out tomorrow morning. First light." That night, Alton couldn't sleep. He sat in his sterile motel room, the decoded message on his laptop screen. Guide. Rex, friendly, liar. The man seemed so genuine, so kind. It was hard to believe he was capable of harm. Alton started digging online. He ran a deep background check on Rex, whose real name was Randall Exeter. On the surface, he was clean. He was a respected local business owner, a member of the Chamber of Commerce, but Alton's clearance gave him access to sealed records. He found a juvenile record for Randall Exeter from over 30 years ago, armed robbery. The charges were dropped, but they were there. He also found a pattern of financial trouble. Mojave Rex Adventure Tours was heavily in debt. He'd declared bankruptcy twice in the last 10 years. A desperate man with a history of robbery. The pieces were starting to fit. The next morning, Alton met Rex at his office. They climbed into a rugged, open-air Jeep. As they drove out of town, Rex was the perfect guide, pointing out desert wildlife and geological formations. He was charming, knowledgeable, and Alton could see how his parents would have trusted him instantly. They drove for over an hour, deep into the desert, following the scenic route Rex had described. "This is it," Rex said, pulling the Jeep over at a breathtaking overlook. "This is the spot I told them about. Beautiful, isn't it?" It was beautiful, but it was also completely isolated. They hadn't seen another car for miles. There was no cell service. They were utterly alone. Alton got out of the Jeep, his heart hammering in his chest. "So, this is where you take people?" Alton asked, his voice steady. Rex nodded, still smiling. "The best view in the whole desert." "It's a long way from town," Alton observed, walking toward the edge of the overlook. "Must be easy to get lost out here if you don't know what you're doing." Rex's smile tightened just a fraction. "That's why you hire a guide." Alton turned to face him, his friendly demeanor gone. "My father left me a message, Rex. He was an intelligence officer. He knew how to communicate without speaking. His map, the one you helped him mark, told me everything I needed to know." Rex's face changed. The friendly mask dropped away, revealing something cold and hard underneath. The smile vanished. "You're a clever boy," he said, his voice losing its friendly drawl. "Too clever." "What did you do to them?" Alton demanded. Rex chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "They were a means to an end, just like all the others. This desert is full of tourists with cash, nice cameras, jewelry. They come out here looking for an adventure. I just give it to them." From behind a large rock formation, a second man emerged, holding a tire iron. He was bigger than Rex, with a mean, brutish face. Alton hadn't even known he was there. He had walked right into a trap, just like his parents. Your folks were smart. I'll give them that, Rex said, taking a step closer. The old man figured it out right about here, started asking too many questions. He put up a fight. Alton's fists clenched. He was a cryptographer, a man who fought battles with his mind, not his body. He was outmatched, and he knew it. It's over, Rex. The police know I'm here. They know I was meeting you. Rex laughed. Do they? The only thing the police know is that another grieving son went looking for answers in the desert and got himself lost. Happens all the time. The second man started advancing on Alton, swinging the tire iron menacingly. Alton backed away, his eyes darting around, looking for an escape, for a weapon, for anything. His foot hit something on the ground. He glanced down and saw a small metal object half buried in the sand. It was a military-issue survival tool, the kind his father had carried with him everywhere. It had a knife, a flint, a compass. His father had been here. He had fought back right here. In that moment, Alton wasn't afraid. He was filled with a cold, clear rage. Rex and his partner had underestimated his father, and now they were underestimating him. He scooped up the tool just as the large man lunged. The events that followed in that desolate part of the desert were a blur of desperation and survival, leading to a conclusion that would finally bring justice for Gerald and Nora. But it raises a difficult question. When faced with a system that has failed, is it right to take the investigation into your own hands, even if it means putting yourself in grave danger? Share your thoughts below. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. We explore new cases of mystery and survival every week, and we'd be glad to have you in our community of curious minds.